Hey, how you guys doing? Welcome to a brand new video. As we're reaching the end of the year, end of 2020 and going into 2021, we've covered a lot of music over the last, 12 months. And here, I'm going to talk about my favorite albums in this video. And in the next video, we're going to talk about my favorite singles of this year. Without further ado, guys, let's start off with number 1. By no means is any of this list in favoritism. It just happens to be the way I wrote it out. So let that sit in your mind. This is not like, oh, I love this the most. But number 1 album of the year is Vital Deprivation from Signs of the Swarm. I listened to it a lot in the February, March time frame for me. I was working at Chipotle, after we're closing down, put the earbuds in, the AirPods, and just start fucking busting out, Dave has a fucking monstrous sound and was a big part of me getting into Signs of the Swarm. I really wasn't a big fan of CJ's. I like CJ's part in Signs of the Swarm, but I like David's better. So Vital Deprivation was definitely a hard album for me. I love a majority of those songs. Only a couple of them I just don't really listen to. Not that I don't like them, I just don't listen to them. Number 2 is A Quiet Place to Die, Alpha Wolf. I have been jamming out to Alpha Wolf a ton this year. This is when I was introduced to them. I heard the song Creep, Akudama, and there was another one, Restricted 18+. All those songs were great singles, and that's what got me into the album itself. I even went back and listened to their earlier stuff from the same vocalist, and even the previous vocalist from their album in 2017, I believe it was. So I definitely enjoyed their album a lot. I listened to it a lot. I did a whole live stream on it on my channel. Make sure to go ahead and check that out. And that is number 2 on our list. Number 3, can you guess it? Death Mask from Darko. Darko is one of the best bands that come out of 2020. Hands down. Hands down. We were first introduced to Darko with Divine Void, and that was a bop of a song, and we really didn't know when to expect any more content, but later in the year, we got the first album, or EP I should say, from Darko, which is Death Mask, which only had 3 songs on it that actually had, like, vocals. I mean, okay, well, technically speaking, the whole album, besides 1 song, had vocals on it, but only, like, there was like 3 interludes and like 3 songs, so kind of confusing on there. I'm not gonna disrespect them though, because interludes are great, and I'll be honest, the ones they made, they're fire. So but off that, Darko is one of the heaviest, most, who the fuck knows, like, electric bands. Like, there's a lot of elements in there that you just don't really hear from any of Tom's other stuff or any of the other bands I like really listen to, so it's very unique. And I feel like he brings a certain lyric sense into it. It's not as like storytelling. It's more of like from what he thinks. So yeah, I love Darko, love Death Mask, and I'm very excited to see what their second EP. So on to the next song. On to the next album. What? The next album of the year for me is Reclaimer from Shadow of Intent. That is hands down one of the most dynamic albums that I've probably heard. Tons of different riffs, tons of different art styles. Chris is the lead guitarist, I believe. From Shadow of Intent. I can tell he has a blast making those songs. Almost every song in Reclaimer, there's a fucking solo or a riff that it's powerful, it's heavy, and these songs are very fast. Not to mention, that is my favorite type of music. It's fast-paced, in your face, it gets you pumped. Once you want to pump some fucking iron type shit. I love that type of stuff. Not to mention, Shadow of Intent in this album, they do it with all their albums, but I don't know if they did it for the first album per se. I'm sorry, I'm going off board here, but second album, Reclaimer, has a lot of operatic sounds, violin, orchestra, all that fun stuff, choir as well. Is that all the same thing? No, that's not the same thing. But they have a lot of those elements in there, which makes all the songs 10 times better, hands down, hands down. And I just really found myself enjoying and going back to a lot of the songs this year, especially right around now. I've been listening to him a lot recently. Just having a blast listening to Bender's vocals. He literally is probably one of my favorite vocalists, right next to Tom. And, he probably had a blast making the song too. From fast-paced vocals to really slower paced to really deep growls and lows, and then really screechy, fucking pitch-perfect highs. Like, this man he went fucking hard on this album. Not to mention the jump in audio quality sound from the first album to the second. You can tell that Reclaimer was their fucking baby coming out from 2017 or from 2016. So yeah, I really did enjoy that album, and I listened to it a lot this year, even though it was released in 2017. On to the last album of the year for me. And for the last album, Immortal, Lorna Shore. I bet you were expecting it earlier in the list. Like I said, this is not in order of favoritism. It just happens to be what I wrote down. Of course, Lorna Shore. Of course, Immortal. Immortal came out January 31st. It was a hype train ever since they announced it. I was covering tons of content and even the entire album that night. There was just so much build up to that album that it really did. It had a lot of weight for Lorna Shore. They had this album in the works for like since 2018 and was not able to release it because of signing issues and label issues and stuff like that. But when it finally came out, it was hard. It was a year late, but it was hard. That shit was brutal. It was in your face. Different types of dynamic songs. Lots of, I would say, a step up from Flesh Coffin in the choir operatic sound. Lots of more like choir and a lot of their songs. And not to mention with the introduction to CJ in the band, he definitely had a different tone and vocal sound than Tom did, and he did a great job covering all the songs in his own unique way, which honestly, I mean, some of the songs from Immortal are my favorite from Lorna Shore in general, not all the songs, but from Immortal, there are a lot of songs that I'm just like, this is one of my favorites for sure. CJ left, so it's back to a new vocalist. We don't really know who that is yet, but I'm very excited for their new stuff. But when it comes to Immortal, I find myself going back to this album several times a year, or this year, obviously being the first year it came out, and it is definitely probably the album of the year for me, besides Dance Gavin Dance. But I didn't include this album in this reaction or this video because it's not really in the genre range. I wanted to keep it all in the metal, death metal scene. So with that being said, guys, that is my list of my favorite albums of the year. Make sure to let me know in the comments below, what do you think? What is your favorite album of the year? Have you listened to any of my albums, or the albums that I've told you to, and I talked about this today? And what are your thoughts on them? I'd love to know. With that being said, guys, check out my video in 2 days time on Thursday. We're doing the singles of the year, which is quite a bit longer. With that being said, guys, I'm gonna get out of here. Peace out.